highly decorated military member. In fact, our research, we have not been able to come up with anyone who has had a higher decoration. Paul received the Silver Star, which is just below the Medal of Honor for his work in the military. And we then found out about, from his nomination, not only his military accomplishments, but his work with our first responders out in California, how he helped develop a lot of procedures and developed a company of firefighters for his hometown. And we were really quite impressed with all he has done, and he did it quietly. And I think one of the reasons why we don't know sometimes about so many people who have done so much is because way out on the West Coast, you know, we don't hear about it back here. But it was because of that. Again, we felt Silver Star. As a former veteran myself, that's the greatest honor you can receive outside of the Medal of Honor. And for that and his work with his first responders unit out in California, we want to honor Paul with his induction into the Fallon Hall of Fame tonight.
Good evening, everyone. Aloha. And mahalo is actually the thank you of the aloha. First of all, I want to thank Tim Montgomery. My goodness, where are you, Tim? Oh, you're sitting in my seat.
Took your seat.
For being my right arm from the get-go. You called me one day. I was just so thrilled to hear from one of Paul's friends. We spoke to him 2 years ago, talking about the reunion for the Bishop Fallon, and of course we lost him last year. And I also want to thank Bill Schwarm, and somewhere. And he was my right hand, who tracked everything that I was doing for tonight's event, and kept me in tune with what I needed to do to get here. Thank you so much. I heard from Tim a lot of stories about when Paul grew up, that he was true to his circle of friends, whether it was football, and he was referred to as a left-handed quarterback for ice hockey. Paul always told me that he was never academically inclined. He was the type that wanted to really get into art, creative art, and the architecture. By the way, my children and I, who are here, visited the Martin Darwin house, the Frank Lloyd house, and it was amazing because Paul mentioned to me that he used to go down there and play in the basement of that house. And I heard from the docent this afternoon that a lot of kids went down there to play because the house was empty at that time. Interesting. So it was a nice visit, and I have to say that on my meeting Paul in 1967, it was a blind date. And it was the first time that I met in 1969 when I met his family here in Buffalo. And I was going home from the airport, and it was the first time I'd seen falling snow. You know, being from Hawaii and California, falling snow in the car. And I said, how beautiful, how beautiful. And the family looked at me like, who is this woman? Is she nuts? It was a blizzard, I didn't know. I have 3 beautiful children, so came here tonight, and the 2 cousins, Paul's cousins and Paul's brother, and his daughter, Devin. And I'm so proud of you, so proud of all of you for being here. Thank you for being here. I have 5 grandchildren. They are 8, 7, 6, 4, and 2. They are the loves of my life, and I love them dearly, and without Paul, this wouldn't have happened. He's meant so much to us in many ways. And I do want to share something about his military and fire service, because there's a lot said in the bio that you need to read. In the military, he was a leader. tell you a quick story about how all of the guys wanted him to be their leader so that he could get them back alive, and unfortunately on one mission he lost 5 out of 7 and came back with himself and another soldier. It's sad, and yet, he brought his military service into the fire service as far as recognizing what safety was and what danger really meant in the lives of those that he worked with. In the fire service, from a backdraft incident to helping with the California wildfires. And I do want to read something here, excuse me, but I was told that I'm a good journalist, but I'm not a good speaker. But I want to read here what one of his firefighter friends that he worked with, who ranked up to the BC of that group, battalion chief. And this is what he said of Paul, and I'll just pick a few things here that he mentioned. He said that in 1970, PJ, we called him PJ by the way, his born acronym, entered his chosen calling in the fire service with Santa Ana Fire Department, an occupation that would challenge him physically, mentally, and emotionally for 30 years. While Paul was a young man, when he entered the fire service, he brought with him the sense of maturity he learned in the Marine Corps. Firefighters must always weigh a critical balance between the dangers of the job versus the calls for help or the spread of the fire. He quickly promoted fire engineer, the apparatus operator. He was responsible for safety driving the apparatus to emergencies. He was recognized by his peers for his attention to detail and caring for the fire engine and all its intricate tools. His crew were often called upon to assist in the wildfires. The 1960s are often called a time of change in America. But for the fire service, the 70s and 80s tested the firefighters and their bosses with change, paramedics, an aggressive hazardous materials program, urban search, rescue teams, swift water rescue responses, shrinking budgets, and a strong effort to introduce minorities into the fire service. A deputy fire chief recently shared that PJ's strength, he admired ability to adapt to the ever-changing fire service. Always the first to welcome a new recruit, PJ always said, "Hey, I'm PJ," as he shook their hand and offered to show them around, was his greeting to all his peers and all the new recruits. His Marine Corps training taught him semper fidelis, always faithful. Fire service training taught him semper paratus, always prepared. We should always remember PJ as always being faithful and always prepared in everything that he did, everything that he sacrificed for all of us. And I've learned in the almost 48 years of marriage with this man last year after we lost him. And he taught the children and I a lot. The meaning of love, the meaning of doing things right the hard way. The meaning of honesty. He said, if you tell a lie, and these are his words, you better have a damn good memory. That's what he said. And he always told myself and the children, and sometimes I would ask him, about this decision or that decision, and he would always say, "Damn it, Bev, make the expletive decision, whether it's right or wrong, it doesn't matter, just own it." And we've learned that, the children and I own it, and the grandchildren still look for him every day. But it's a loving service that Paul has done for all of us. And I want to say, to love and be loved is one thing, but to be in love is a whole other story. And that's what we were, and that's what we are today. Thank you.